Well, today I have a tongue twister of a story for you. A choose your own adventure, if you will. Is this a lack of good order and discipline? Or is this a commander going out of his way to demoralize his troops because he's a helicopter mom? Well, hey kids, today we're gonna talk about leadership. Leadership. Oh. You see, leadership is a very important thing in the United States military. How can you have troops follow you into battle or do what they're supposed to do if you as a leader can't hold them accountable or yourself accountable? And let's talk about the elephant in the room. Toxic leadership. How many times have you been under a command where all of a sudden some guy's just a big flaming bag of dicks to you and your buddies, and now you want to get out of the company, out of the battalion, out of the unit, out of the MOS, hell, even out of whatever branch of service you're in, because you say, screw it. If this dickhead is in charge, I don't want to be a part of this place anymore. Now, on the flip side of that same coin, what if you're the guy in charge? What if you're doing the right thing, but your subordinates are such dumb pieces of shit? Such knuckle-headed morons, boulder-headed baboons, that you just can't seem to get anything right. And all you can do is let the beatings continue until morale improves. Well, today I have a tongue twister of a story for you. A choose your own adventure, if you will, where I'll give you some of the bolded points of an interesting story that I came across that I received in an email. And we can all determine together in the comments, which side do you choose? Is leadership in the right, or are the subordinates in the right? Just the right amount of discipline to keep things in line? Too much discipline to make everybody go stir crazy. And speaking of crazy, have you seen the news lately? I can't tell what's right or what's wrong or who's telling the truth or who's feeding me a line of bull. But you can change that by checking out Ground News. With Ground News, they can tell you whether the publisher of the story is leaning left or leaning right in the way that they put it out there. They even tell you which news agencies are reporting on it. And with their blind spot, you can look at news stories that are being completely not talked about from one side or the other. Like this one. Turns out the United States was going to give Gaza over $30 million worth of condoms, which has a lot of people up in arms, and the right's reporting on, but the left isn't. And that's just one of the stories about DOGE, the Department of Government Expense, or whatever it is that Elon Musk is in charge of now. And of course, that's not without controversy. So if you want the news and you want to make up your own mind instead of just swallowing the garbage that people are force-feeding you, check out Ground News. And if you want unlimited access, consider subscribing. I can't recommend enough that you subscribe to Ground News. They're independent and subscriber funded, but my users save 40% on the unlimited access Vantage plan that I use. Head to ground.news/cops or scan my QR code right there and try them out today. Circle up, weirdos, it's story time. I want to see which side of the aisle you go on. Our story takes us to the USS Santa Fe, a nuclear submarine. Ooh, very nifty. Where there is a young seaman on board this craft. I would say ship, but it is USS, so United States ship, but it's a sub. Oh, ADHD brain, you've thrown me a loop again. Anyway, they're on the sub with a young sailor on board, and guess what? Not only is he on board, he is bored. When you're sitting there looking at a screen going, it's obviously gonna make you go crazy, so you've gotta spend some time trying to keep your mind off of the fact that you're stuck in an iron tube underwater for the next 4 months. Or longer. So what does he do? Well, he has these cool, unique physical objects that are puzzles. I'm sure you've seen them before. Those cool little metal things where there's like loops around them and you have to try and undo them. They're like physical brain teasers for you to work on. And obviously, that's not gonna take your mind or attention away from the thing that you're supposed to be watching. Boop, boop. How do I get this thing? Boop, going off the boop. If I just do the boop, I think you're picking up what I'm putting down. Something to keep you occupied, but it's not gonna take your attention too far away from the job that you're supposed to be doing. As the sailor's deployment goes on, well, he's just doing his little brain teaser here and there, and of course, people walk in and say, hey, what you got there, Steven? What you doing with that thing in your hands? What's that kabobble you got there? Well, and he shows everybody, and then what do you know? The entire sub has about 10 to 15 of these physical brain teasers floating around, floating around the submarine, and everybody's getting their chance at them one after another, trading them back and forth. Now, if you think this story is all filled with brain teasers and trading, well then you've got another thing coming, because here comes Captain Killjoy. Now, I'm not exactly sure what a SQWEP is, an SQWEPS, but I believe that it's something to do with squadron weapons, a weapons officer, if you will. Well, he sees young Seaman Steve there, fiddle around with his finger finder, and says, "Hey, what's that?" And Steve goes, "Well, sir, it's my fiddle foozy. Look at my brain teaser that I'm trying to figure out. Isn't that nice? Why aren't you smiling?" Well, the SQWEPS then brings in the engineering Master Chief. The Master Chief shows up and says, "Hey, Steven, are these yours too?" And Steven goes, "Well, yes, they are. We've been trading them like friends across the entire sub." Now, here's where our choose your own adventure begins, my sideline watching weirdos. What would you do in this scenario? Well, the commander of the ship isn't too happy that everybody's playing with brain teasers and who's he what's a doodles instead of doing the job. So he has the brand new chief that's aboard the sub do an investigation, collect all the doodads and brain teasers and bring them to him. Now, due to the investigation from the chief petty officer, the commander of the ship, the commanding officer, decides, "I'm gonna change things up." Removes the entire maneuvering watch team and puts the entire sub on port to starboard watch, which I had to look up, and on subs that means 12 hours. So you've got a 12-hour shift and a 12-hour shift. And if guys are working for 12 hours, well, that's their watch, and then they do their jobs for however many hours they have left in that 12-hour day, and then what's remaining they sleep, which might be not so much, and then vice versa. That goes on for a week. Now the commander of the ship says, "Hey, you know what? I'm tired of the lack of discipline around here. That's why we're changing things up. Everybody's lollygagging and they don't have their mind on the ship's priorities of training or keeping this thing from sinking. Look at me, I'm upset, even though everybody on the ship was doing it." That's right. Part of the investigation, they ask little Seaman what's-his-face Steven, and then they're like, "Hey, Steven, how long you been doing this?" Steven replies, on a year. This has been going on a year." "Well, all right, Steven. Well, we're going to take all your toys away and you can't get them back." "I didn't know that this was a problem." "Oh, well, it is." "Well, I'm sorry." "Oh, well, you better be." So welcome to Leadership 101, where you're darned if you do and you're darned if you don't. Which side of the aisle are you on? Do you think that this is a good order and discipline thing? Or do you think that maybe this Seaman Stevens just over-exaggerating some stupid story and that there were some other bigger issues involved and he just happens to think that his brain teasers were the whole point of it? Or, do you think that it's bad leadership? Hey, I've seen it, trust me, of leadership taking away something that's inconsequential or stepping on something that they think is a big idea, when all it does is demoralize people and take away the morale, which is what demoralizing is. I don't know why I repeated myself. Well, I don't know, maybe for the Marines. And long story short, although there's a couple other hiccups and people kind of freaked out at the commander's choice of being mad at some thumb games, everybody gets back to shore without any major issues except for a couple people that wanted to punch their ticket out a little quick because they were freaking out because they were new guys. But here's the quick ending, and then we'll discuss what could have possibly went on. Seaman Stevens sitting there at port, just chilling, wondering what the hell's gonna happen to him, and well, he gets a nasty gram letter put inside his file, locally, not permanent, that says, "Hey, you are lollygagging and doing you weren't supposed to be doing, and you need to stop that. Here's a little letter that says you should stop, and once you leave this ship, then that can get thrown away." And then the chief petty officer that was in charge of the investigation comes up to him with his box full of jiggly-puff, jingle-jangle crossword finger puzzles and says, "Here, I solved 2 of them. Enjoy your time." To which Steven replies with, "I don't know why any of this happened. So, let's figure this thing out." Now, the maneuvering watch team got their jobs back, and basically the worst thing that happened, nobody got NJP'd or went to the captain's mast. The worst thing was just these letters that people would get saying that they weren't paying attention enough in submarine schools, and they should pay attention more. In fact, I have one right here, so you could pause it and read it and see what you think. So let's have this back and forth conversation. Do you think that young Seaman Stephen was wrong to have little brain teasers to keep him occupied while he's just chilling out on the sub, doing his jobs, trying not to fall asleep and stay focused? Or do you think that the commanding officer was correct in taking away his little finger brain teasers, huh? Do you think that that was too much of a distraction from his duties that it had to go? Here's one side of thinking. If you think the commander's correct, well, there's a bunch of people playing games instead of doing what they're supposed to do. You just find out about it because the entire sub's been doing it for so long, and you're like, hey, what happened to good order and discipline here? Why are we playing games when we're supposed to be on the job? We're in a nuclear sub that if something should go wrong, well, that's kind of a big deal. How about we take things seriously and we do group punishment? Hell, I'm a drill sergeant. I love group punishment. If too many people are off or one off and nobody's fixing them, sometimes it's the best way to get everybody right in line again and fix the stupid real quick. Now, let's go to the other side of the argument where, well, maybe the commanding officer overreacted and Seaman Stevens doing the right thing. Well, hey, you've got so many things that you can do and so many hours in the day that of course you're busy, but you don't want to go stir crazy on a sub. Because guess what? That happens. That absolutely happens. And you need something to keep your mind occupied instead of thinking of all the water that's slowly going to crush you to death should something fail. Hashtag Titanic crew. Gone but not forgotten, billionaire. And if you're on that side, well then you have to look at the entire scenario as, well, hey, Captain, if this is a thing of camaraderie, a group task that everybody naturally got involved in, why would you then take that away thinking that this is going to then support good order and discipline? You've taken away a group activity that everybody's involved in, occupied in, staying mentally sharp and focused and not falling asleep or drooling over themselves from brain rot, watching too much freaking anime. Why remove it? Why take it away? What is the harm in it? Is it that much of a distraction? Tell me what you think in the comments below. Best way to support the channel is get yourself a shirt. Got a new shirt. Gather the goons. Washington, toy, battle ready. Teddy Roosevelt, toy. On a bull moose, looking toy. And of course, with the change in the SecDef, we've got Make Drill Sergeants Great Again. Hey there, SecDef Pete Hegseth. I sure would like it if basic training in the Army wasn't, you know, pussified, for the lack of a better term. Make Drill Sergeants Great Again. Sure would love if that happened. All right. Cheapest way to support the channel, once again, leave me a comment. Tell me what you think. Whose side are you on? Is this a lack of good order and discipline? I've never been on a Navy ship. I don't know how focused you have to be on the blip blips. Or is this a commander going out of his way to demoralize his troops because he's a helicopter mom? All right. See you next time, weirdos. Due to the investigation by the Chief Petty Officer, the commander, you phone, shut the up.